So I'm going to start with two scenarios. The first scenario, you're in the Louvre, Paris, and you're walking through and you see the Mona Lisa on the wall by Leonardo da Vinci, and you see Starry Night by Van Gogh. And through watching these paintings, you have a glimpse into the history of our entire human history, looking at different movements like the Renaissance, Rococo, Baroque art, Impressionist movement. Now the second scenario, you're in an old villa in the French Riviera in Monaco, and in front of you is a runway where hundreds of models are walking in dresses designed by Chanel. And as the flashing photography goes around you, this also is a part of human history. This also gives you a lens into entire generations of desires and needs and a fantasy that we currently want. So by the end of this presentation, not only will you know how to appreciate the power fashion has in giving us a glimpse into our own histories, but also the craftsmanship and the power it holds to change and create new, better communities for us to live in. So the way I'm going to do this, first I'm going to give you an example of specific collections that are very significant for certain generations. Second, I'm going to step out and look at the 90s and how the 90s generational history and societal movements gave a platform for these designers and these collections to expose certain varieties of our culture. And third, I'm going to see how fashion affects you today. So the first collection I want to go through is McQueen's graduate collection from Central Martins in London, given on March 22nd, 1991. So he was inspired by the East End serial killer, Jack the Ripper. Some background on who he is, and during the 1890s, he was a surgeon who traveled the entire world and brutally murdered prostitutes, which he later surgically did experiments on them and used their body parts for textile. So what his main inspiration for this was, he grew up in East London, and he grew up from a lower poverty. There were family members that were in prostitution, and there's also an urban legend that that one of his family members owned an inn where one of the victims of Jack the Ripper was murdered. So during his collection, he used very Victorian silhouettes, and a lot of the times he used palettes of black and maroon, where strands of human hair, fine strings of beads were interwoven with gray mesh that resembled of blood through the veins, kind of showing the themes of murder, blood, and rape. He also used strands of human hair in the text and the under translucent lining of some of the fabric. So under this dress, there are strands of hair, and this is reminiscent of Victorian tradition where prostitutions cut pieces of their hair and sold them to people who would later give them to their loved ones. So basically, what does this collection mean? What is the point of saying such a gruesome story and shedding light on Jack the Ripper? Basically, through his fashion collection, he was trying to memorialize the brutally murdered prostitutes. Because a lot of the times what happened during this period was people said, oh, they deserve this. They're women of the night. They deserve this sin. They're not worthy of any police interjection. So through these collections, he's giving a platform for those who don't have a voice. He's giving the stories of the untold and giving people to learn the complete injustice that occurred to them. So why was this occurring in the 90s? To take a step back, so the 90s was full of Generation X, this new movement of kids and young adults who were trying to find a voice in a society that no longer fit them. There was the rap and hip-hop movements where people of the African-American culture are using this music, as Kylie mentioned, to say their own stories of poverty, of injustice, of police brutality. Then we also have the girl riot movement, started in Washington, D.C., where they start talking about feminist movements. They wanted to get out of the music industry that was mostly controlled by men, and they were produced, written songs, sang by women to talk about injustice like sexual violence, rape, domestic violence, patriarchy that they lived in. We also have the grunge movement, where Kurt Cobain, he used Metallica and music of very, very sad and somber music to show the drug abuse and the confusion that was happening during this time because of the new age of technology. No longer was fashion and music two separate spheres. They came together with MTV, giving a platform for these two things to come together and really give a voice to this young generation. So how do trends form? Basically, trends occur very organically. They're inspired by people, specific locations, and economy. For example, when the economy is booming, trends are really bright. There's colors, there's bright logos, bright colors, very ostentatious clothing. Then like today, there's where the economy is not so well, there's more minimalistic hues where people use very slim silhouettes. They use colors like black and white, and they use innovation and use less materials to say more. One important trend that's occurring today is normcore, where we're trying to make a genderless society, where, for example, Bruce to Caitlin in this transgender community. And this is how, where, like this outfit I'm wearing right now, a man can wear this outfit as well and still look fashionable. So using clothing to question the stereotypes that are given through society. So what I wanted to do is I was mostly inspired by Jack the Ripper's collection by McQueen. And what I wanted to do through my own design was question the stigmatized prostitution and how sex and sexual desire and women's role in society has changed over time. I have my own dress design that will incorporate a hoop to demonstrate. A hoop is basically a Victoria era. Women wore them to make their hips look really wide, and they wore a corset to make them have that hourglass figure. So instead of using the gory colors that McQueen did, I want to flip it, and I want to use really bright colors to show the feminine and the brightness that is inside of all women, that is silenced to fit the standards of beauty that patriarchy has given us. And through this, I want to have a social commentary of the injustice that is occurring today. Any questions? I have 2 seconds.
We're not going to have time for questions. So go to your dessert, or that was your dessert.
Okay, can I say my dessert 2 seconds?
Quickly.
Okay, basically my dessert is, a shirt is never just a shirt. There's always a story to tell. There's always something the designer wants to say that you are trying to say and portray to the world. So next time you look in the mirror, remember that.